Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sports Psych Show. Thanks so much for joining me. Now, today I'm honoured to be speaking with basketball global player development coach, Ganon Baker. Ganon, welcome to the Sports Psych Show.
Hey, Dan, appreciate it, man. I'm psyched up to speak some life and love for this great life and this great sport. So thank you.
Well, I'm so pleased you can join us because we've been trying to do it for some time and you've been jet-setting around the world delivering coaching sessions to people globally. I know you've done quite a lot in China recently, which I think is absolutely fascinating. It would be interesting to get your take on coaching different people, different ages, from different cultures. But look, I think first of all, why don't you introduce yourself to the Sports Psych Show audience? Where have you been? What you've been doing? You know, where do you come from? What sports did you play? And what's brought you to where you are now?
I appreciate that. My name's Ganon Baker. I was born and raised in Hampton, Virginia, and now I live in Melbourne Beach, Florida. And, you know, I grew up playing basketball. I was a high school basketball player, college basketball player, played in Iceland professionally. I even coached college for 5 years. I gave playing one more shot, and I tried out for the Denver Nuggets at the age of 30. My dad was a coach, so he introduced me to the sport. But I learned a lot, you know, from basketball, and that's why I do what I do now, which is I'm a global player development coach, which means I travel all over the world, and I help coaches and players from middle school level all the way up to pro on you know, how to be a better player, how to be a better coach. And I coach from the holistic model of, you know, you got to build up your physical self, mental self, emotional self, social self, and spiritual self. And I came up with that philosophy because of what I dealt with, you know, when I was playing. Now I played, you know, baseball and soccer and swimming, and I retired from those when I was around 12, 13, just to focus on basketball, and I became very good at it, to a lot of grit. And there's so many life lessons I learned through sports, and I take those life lessons, you know, all over the world. I've been to 47 countries, 5 continents. As you mentioned, I'm a minority owner of a business in China. I've worked with some world champions, the Minnesota Lynx, in the WNBA, Nike's athletes, LeBron, Kobe, Kyrie, Kevin Durant, Amari Stoudemire, Tyson Chandler, Derrick Rose. It's amazing the athletes I'm in front of, but I don't use that platform to be popular. I take the lessons of why the best are the best, and I go, you know, take them to you know, whoever wants to use my services all over the world. So it's a pretty unique, you know, platform I have. I was the only white guy in high school and a little bit in college, so I learned the lesson of inclusion and diversity. I'm a 6-foot white guy, so for a 6-foot white guy to do what he did as a player, you know, to get a scholarship to play professionally, that's like you got a 0.001% chance of doing that. And I was able to get over those odds. And then, you know, running a small business for 20 years, you know this, 80% of small businesses fail within a year, and I'm still profiting from it. So I've had a good life. I continue to use what the Lord has given me, and I love what I do.
Well, what's absolutely fascinating, you talked about being an exceptional athlete yourself across quite a few sports when you were young, when you were 12, 13 years old, and you're really into the mental side. You know, you said you had a lot of grit, and that helped you get that scholarship. It helped you go on and compete at a professional level. And, what is always interesting to me, Ganon, is I come from a golf background. I played professionally and I coached professionally, but I would have always said that I got into sports psychology and became a sports psychologist because of being poor at the psychological side of the game. But it sounds to me like your fascination in coaching, but psychology, mental side especially, is because you were so good at the mental side of the game. Would that be a fair thing to say?
Yes, and I'll say this, you know, for you to play golf at the highest level, after that journey, you're going to need a psychiatrist, man, because that's one of the hardest games I've ever played. But yes, you know, the mental side for me was crucial. And I don't know if you get a percentage, but it's definitely 50% of your playing. And obviously you can't Jedi mind trick people into getting out the way on the basketball court or using the force to hit a ball. That's not using your mind at all, but what it is, it starts your journey. It starts your imagination. It starts your thoughts. It allows you to use critical thinking. It allows you to focus. It allows you to set goals. Like I had all that when I was 12, 13. I guess God gave me that gift of mental awareness and mental focus. I had the awareness to retire from swimming, which I broke records, Virginia records. I was an all-star pitcher, shortstop in baseball. I was an all-star right halfback in soccer. So I had the potential to be good at those sports, maybe great at swimming, but I didn't have the passion for it. But I love basketball, so I retired from that. I set a goal for myself, long-term, short-term, action steps, kept a basketball journal, started asking questions. I had curiosity, wasn't afraid of failure, like grit. I had all that at an early age, and it propelled me to being a very successful basketball player and successful coach. And now, I read more, I study more. Obviously, the older you get, the more mature you get, the more able you're to apply information that you get. But at an early age, yes, I had that. Don't know where it came from, but I'll thank God for giving me that gift. And now I try to implement that into my curriculum.
Well, you said your father was a coach. Do you think you got a lot of your personal qualities from your father's teachings and way of life?
Yeah, he was a high school coach, and he knew what he knew, and he always would pass it on to me. He took me to the gym at practice, and he would even play pickup games. So I'd sit there and watch him play. He'd play me one-on-one, and I gained confidence from that because he would never let me win, but he would encourage me. He would give me some advantages and let me score, or show me ways that I can get better, but he would never let me win. And that's kind of, I would say a lot of my philosophies from my pops.
And when you reflect back, you were a kid who, it sounded like you made a lot of sacrifices. Did you feel a little bit out of the ordinary there? Did you feel that you were a little bit different, looking around and thinking that nobody was doing what you were doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. Number one, I was the only white dude in the basketball gym, like boys club, King Street, pickup courts, high school. I definitely was different physically. So, I got attention, good or bad. I got attention. And number two, I came to the gym early. I came with my water bottle. I came with my bag. I did my warm-ups. I did self-talk. I was aware of keeping my emotions in check and not be too high or too low. I did the extra work. I kept the basketball journal. I was the one asking coach questions. I did everything the coach said. So I respected authority. I honored the authority. I didn't care whether the coach was right or wrong. He was the coach. I got you. So that made me different. And I got bullied for it. And I got ostracized for it. I mean, I was in the lunchroom and I never ate dessert. And they asked me why. And I said, man, I'm in training. I want to keep my, nobody does that. And, I had 35, 40-minute lunch in middle school and high school. And so I'd eat my lunch 15 minutes and then I'd go to the library and do my homework so I could practice more after school. Or if I didn't have homework, I'd go outside and shoot free throws. So that was different. And when somebody is different and people understand it, right, the two things happen. They either have curiosity in a positive way or they criticize you and hate on you in a negative way because you make them feel insecure. So I didn't know that was going on, but it worked for me and it worked for other greats. And so passion and commitment is the 1%, and the 99% of failures don't have that. The 1% of great athletes and successful leaders have that 1% of that what we're talking about, the ability to be different, the ability to sacrifice, the ability to commit, the ability to be driven when everything in front of you, you see failure, but that internal, mental, emotional, like unbreakable faith keeps you moving forward. Like I had that, and now it works for me and it works for others. And so I go and teach that with an authentic, message and spirit.
You say you had that. Do you think others can develop it even if they don't have it in abundance from the start?
Well, that's $1 million question, and we all want some Instagram, post to help us or some pill to take.
Hmm.
But bottom line is yes, others can have that, but the hardest thing for a leader to do is, control and manipulate somebody's emotions and thoughts. Like I can't make the person think or feel. I can make them use their left hand, and I can get unbelievable reps. I can make them say stuff. I am, I can, I will. Next play, I'm good enough, I'm smart. But if they don't internally believe that, then they're never going to have it. So as a coach, if I want kids to work hard, I show them. If I want kids to work hard and I don't show them physically, then I show them a video. I send them a book. I have them read. An example visually is a great form of passion, of teaching passion, because people can see it, they can feel it. Number two, it's creating the whole environment of their practice when they walk in the gym, when they leave the gym. It's not only using. So that's one way. Another way is connecting, not communicating, because everybody can talk. Very few can connect, and so it's using words, different. You're meeting them where they're at, using pop culture, trying to get them to hear you, and using social media at night when you haven't seen them in a while to keep that relationship going. It's coaching is relationships, motivation / inspiration, and then execution, right? Getting them to do what you want them to do. So yes, you can, but you gotta. Even today, I still am trying to learn how to connect, because today's athletes, and even I'm 47, so I'm trying to connect with these 24, 25-year-olds. I'm mentoring a lot of these young coaches, and it's hard. It's hard because of the culture that we're in and the microwave success, right? The ability to withstand pain, like that. There's just a lot of factors that going into people succeeding and failing.
You mentioned that to mentor 24, 25-year-olds, 15, 16-year-olds, 20-year-olds is hard because of the culture we're in. You've been coaching for a decade and a half, 2 decades. What do you feel is the difference today with young people? Because we hear this a lot, and it tends to be a generational thing. This generation, I'm a similar age to you, and we sort of we look at kids today, kids in inverted commas, and say, oh, kids today and the culture today, and they're not putting in the hours, they're not putting in the reps, etc., etc. I dare say the generation ahead of us said that about us, but what is it that you see, and what is it that's tough about today's generation to help them strive towards excellence, essentially?
Great question, Dan, and I'm going to be real passionate. Pain, man. People don't want to feel pain, and I got young people that are afraid to confront their players and their clients because of the uncomfortable emotional pain that's going to take place with their parent or their player.
Yep.
To be a player development coach, you got to be in shape a little bit. I'm not saying you got to run a marathon, but what I teach is you got a great teacher, right? Demonstrates, and I'm a physical, right, player coach. So I'm showing you the skills, and man, these coaches, they commit to 2 or 3 weeks of eating right and exercising, and then the emotional pain, the physical pain of doing it again. The law of familiarity sits in, man. They get familiar, they get ungrateful. They're not willing to go through that pain, man. Like, that's it. Like, parents, I got a kid yesterday, got stung by a bee. Everybody was freaking out because the kid was in pain. And I was like, let him cry it out. Let him cry it out, right? Tell him it's going to be okay. Encourage him. But part of succeeding is going through a battle. You can't have a victory over any short-term, long-term goal in your life unless you have a battle. And when you have a battle, there's going to be pain. Sometimes it's physical. Sometimes it's frustration mental. Sometimes it's emotional. You get embarrassed, right? You get your feelings hurt. And it's okay to cry, but it's not okay to quit. I'll say it again. It's okay to cry, but it's not okay to quit. It's okay to hang out in the dungeon of despair, but not tomorrow, right? You gotta mourn and then get yourself up and go on with your quote unquote bad self. And so kids nowadays are afraid of pain. Therefore, they want an easier journey. They want microwave success because they're not willing to put in the time and the hours, right? Repetition is the mother of success. Like they get bored. Their attention span. So now as a coach, I'm finding different ways to connect and entertain where 20 years ago I could just show up and educate. But as I said before, like I grew up, you grew up, we honored authority. Coach is always right. We never question the coach. Now you got my 10-year-old daughter is questioning me on, Daddy, is that how you really shoot? Now, half of that is because I'm daddy, right? But I'm trying to, and now you got kids like questioning, well, coach. So it's the curiosity in a negative way instead of being open-minded and saying, oh, okay, that's authority. I'm gonna respect authority, and so to me, that's that's the foundation of it. And if kids, as coaches, if we could just, we got to work on that message and creating that platform of, no, pain is inevitable. Pain is good. But again, you coach a kid twice, 3 times, 4 times a week, and then they're going home most of the time and spending most of the time at home. And those parents are sending a whole different message, right? The parents are enabling, entitling, parachuting them, their kids, so to speak, out of trouble. And obviously, as a parent, you want to keep your kids safe, but as a parent, you want to teach them life skills to where they can battle through adversity, because nowadays there's more kids and more, and I know I'm getting into other categories, but there's more kids and more coaches depressed or trying to commit suicide or have committed suicide in my life that I see more than ever before. And that's because, there's no value from failing. We've done a bad job of teaching kids that, again, it's not about whether you win or lose, it's how you play the game. It's the journey through wins and losses. It's not trying to win, but trying to teach the kids how to be a winner. And so that's a whole nother, we could talk about that subject for a whole year. And that's something I'm very passionate about that I try to use my curriculum. And I don't want to say it's tough love, but it is. It's like letting these kids figure. How about this three words? Figure it out. Figure it out. Get up. You're okay. If you're not dead, you're not done. It's amazing the gentleness and the coddling that so many coaches and parents have, not only for like 10, 11-year-olds, but LeBron James for NBA players. Like, are you kidding me? Which it's another league, and I dabble in the NBA, and I have a lot of NBA friends, but, coaches are getting fired now, and the coaches are held more accountable than the players. And, it's such a sensitive subject that all 30-some teams have hired a sports psychiatrist for that team specifically because of the rampant mental health issues these players are having. And these are the most successful, the best at what they do in the world, and they're not happy. So the NBA, thought it was important to hire a sports psychologist for every team, because even those players at that level, men and women, struggle, right, with pain, how to deal with it. So it's very interesting.
You mentioned the word embarrassed, and for me in my work, I find young people quite socially aware, quite self-conscious about their actions, and I don't know if it's quite a Western thing, actually, a British thing, an American thing, is to put in effort. They're embarrassed about putting in effort. Not all young people, but some are. And actually, it's quite often people with a great deal of ability, a great deal of skill in their hands or their feet or whatever part of their body is relevant to their sport. It is to put in effort is an embarrassing thing to do, and so subsequently they don't and their sports suffers as a consequence. And you mentioned earlier, when you grew up, you experienced an element of being ostracized by your peers. It sounds like by the effort that you put in, the sacrifices you made. You know, that emotional pain of being ostracized, the threat of being ostracized, left out by your peers, I think is almost experienced as a physical pain. And I think the science demonstrates that you know, there are similar pathways in the nervous system, that when you feel socially ostracized, you feel physical pain. Is that what you found, is that those young people, those young players, are a little bit embarrassed about putting in effort?
Yeah, I have. Not so much the United States, but like girls, you know, working out with girls, and then everybody in China, they sometimes will hold off on doing their best because, number one, they don't want to make everybody else look bad, and they don't want to stand out from everybody else. Therefore, they want to be liked more than showing love. They want to be accepted by their teammates or by the people in the gym. So you know, when you're all together and everybody looks the same and acts the same, now you have a bond, and it's jaded, it's warped, thinking. In China, they call it saving face. Like, you never want to, you know, be embarrassed or make mistakes in public. You know, you want to say, and that's the biggest cultural difference that I'm facing teaching over there, even in business. It's like, nobody wants to be transparent and respectfully honest and do their best and let other people rise to the level of their play or their expectations, and then exceeding expectations of the leader. You know, if I give you a directive, then okay, do that, but exceed that, and then bring others on the journey with you. Now, that's a true leader, right? Is they invite others on their platform. So, with girls, training girls all over the world, I don't know, again, Western, Eastern, it's just a lot of girls are emotionally connected to who their teammates are and even who they're playing against. So they don't want to outshine the others. They don't want to hurt the others. The elite players, no, man. The elite players are quote unquote dogs, pit bulls. They're like, I'll kill you. You know, I'm just trying to ball. I'm just trying to win. You gotta keep up with me. Let's go. Oh, you're not working as hard as me. I'm gonna come over there and confront you. Like, the elite players are a different cat. But again, that's 1%. The reason why these kids aren't successful is because, you know, they're afraid to work, and they don't want to work, and they don't want that emotional embarrassment of being called out in a good way, which is weird to me. Like, they would rather their coach not acknowledge them, because then they feel bad, like they're the only one doing well. Like, it's really interesting.
So you're a coach and you've been confronted with this cultural challenge in China. What things have you done to try to deal with that? How have you tried to help them?
Man, a lot of prayer and a few glasses of wine. Yeah, seriously, it's, you know, you got to have solitude time, because it's very frustrating and very stressful, because it's different, and not many people in my industry. I think I'm the only one that has chosen to go over there for, you know, 4 to 5 months a year. So coming up on my third year, and so for the last 2 years, I spent most of my time in China. So, you know, it's, how do I deal with it? You know, one player at a time, one coach at a time, trying to find different ways to be systematic, right? That's what they understand. They understand a step-by-step and a do this, do that. But it all comes down to our mission statement, our core values, our non-negotiables, right? Our vision, our business model. And that is me and my partner, Hal. The company's called Stronger Me. And we have Steph Marbury doing camps and appearances. We have me doing educating player coaches. And then we have a 3-on-3 tournament. And the whole basis of Stronger Me is we want to make you a better coach, a better leader, right, and a better person. And we want China basketball to be one of the best basketball countries in the world. And so if you want to be great at basketball, you got to study Europe and you got to study United States. They're the two best continents in the world. So you got North America and Europe, right? They're the best two continents in the world in basketball. So you got to do what they do. And they, create leaders. They handle pain this way. They handle, so you don't, you respect China, but on the court, it's not China culture. It's basketball culture. It's championship culture. We're teaching you how to win and be a leader. So you just keep getting back to that, and you keep asking them, hey, who wants to be a better player? Who wants, where was China? And it's really transparent. And how many NBA players? Who's the best coaches in the world? Is it China? No, you can't. You got to get out of the China mentality. So I keep saying that, and they keep accepting it. So it's, if I go out of business, it's because, they didn't want to. I kept saying China stinks and America, right? But you guys aren't very good at basketball, so you got to keep, you got to change, and so it's the constant, emphasis, because it's not what you do, it's what you emphasize. That's not how you do it. But it's a very slow process, man. It's day to day, step by step. And so I think we're making a small difference.
Well, behaviour change isn't it? And especially when you're trying to help people who are used to or indoctrinated or born into a specific culture. And so I'd just like to dwell on this a little bit because I think it's absolutely fascinating. What do you specifically see on the court from the coaches and the players in China that is different from, say, the United States or Serbia or Spain, who are the powerhouses of basketball in Europe? What specifically is different?
Their understanding of the game. Like they don't understand the terminology, which, right wing, left wing, short corner, low post, midline. Like they have no foundation of the game. And in the States, you play rec ball and, middle school ball. And those, I'm not saying those coaches are Greg Popovich's, but they have a decent understanding of the game. They'll go, they have the resources to go study it a little bit. But China, because of, internet issues and, there's different legislations on what you can and can't watch, and the government controls everything on the social media standpoint. Like, these coaches don't have anywhere to go, so they do watch NBA games, and so they'll just watch an NBA game and try to go out and do what they think they're seeing. So they don't really understand how to play the game. Number two, they don't know how to play with a teammate. And that's, in my industry, that's the core problem with it, is all these coaches teach one-on-one moves and sexy one-on-0, one person doing a drill. And they're not learning, okay, well, basketball is not golf. It's a team sport. You got to play with a teammate. You got to pass the ball. You got to screen for a teammate. You have to talk. So they don't know how to talk, and they don't know how to have what I call game actions. 2-on-0, 3-on-0, ball screen, down screen, penetrate, kick, dribble to a teammate, hand it off, space out. Like they don't know how to do that. And number three, they want to win, right? But they have no concept of how to win.
Right.
That you get time and score, and all right, in this possession we need to foul this guy. They don't have that tactical presence and information on, all right, 3 seconds left, you're down by 3, you probably need a 3-pointer, and they'll try to go shoot a layup and try to get fouled. They don't have that critical thinking skill of, okay, the defense takes this away, what do I do? And that to me, it's just competing. They don't know how to figure it out because they're so systematic, and they want you to coach them every play. And in any sport, even in golf, you can't think about every play. You got to just practice so much that your instincts take over, and in the game, you're kind of self-aware and recognizing where the offense and defense is, and then you just make a choice.
And so kind of what I'm thinking as a sports psychologist here, I'm thinking of a lack of intensity, therefore, on the course, is that they're they're overthinking each play, or they want to be told each play, and they don't
Exactly.
they're not executing with intensity, with a real positive intent. They sound quite inhibited and slightly submissive on the court.
Exactly. I mean, they'll go hard at driving to the basket.
Mm.
You know, they play it all at one speed, which is whenever they decide to do something, they'll do it hard. But when you catch the ball, that's when they freeze up. That's when they're submissive, when they have to make, anytime they have to make a decision that you didn't tell them or they didn't practice enough, you know, it's kind of like, you know, training 12 and under kids. Like, when your mind freezes up, so does your feet, so does your hands. You know, the slower you think, the slower your feet, and they don't make a decision quickly enough. You're right. And so if it's an easy play, man, they'll go right to the hole with the drive, or they'll shoot it. But that's not basketball. You know, you got to make short, quick decisions. It's a consecutive action game. It's a very fast game, and they just they haven't picked that up yet. And so we're trying to create the culture of that, you know. And it comes down to training. It comes down to preparation.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And so, slightly going to the other end of the scale, a different tack here is you know, you've had the pleasure of observing, working with some very, very good basketball players, some of the best in the world. LeBron James, for instance. So what takeaways? I mean, obviously, there's going to be some obvious takeaways from those guys, but what things, obvious or less obvious, have you learnt from those guys?
Well, I always mention stuff that people might not see or recognize, and it's his ability to have fun with the process. And it's not a childlike, disrespectful, playful fun. It's a passionate fun. Mm. So, like, he's enjoying working out. He's enjoying taking the same shot over and over and over. He's communicative in the workouts. He acknowledges his teammates. He's self-aware. He asks questions. And not only him, it's Kevin Durant. I spent 4 days with Ray Allen in Europe, you know, working out with him, eating with him, and he and I were hired by Jordan Brand to work out the top 17-year-old players in Barcelona in Europe for this camp. And it's just his childlike passion for a game that he's been playing all his life. So it's like the law of familiarity. If you let familiarness and redundancy and boredom sap into your life, then you're going to be ungrateful. And when you're ungrateful, you're not aware, and you can't have power for what you do. You can't bring that passion. And so they never get bored with the process, and they're able to express joy, positive joy and emotion in the gym, in the workouts with other people. And so you can kind of see LeBron do that. Like the other last night or 2 nights ago, he jumped in Kevin Hart's lap at a game during halftime, right? And old school coaches were like, "Oh, get focused on the game." No, man. I mean, if you're working hard, you're doing the right thing, you're doing the best you can, you're exuberating the best version of yourself, then, man, have fun with it. Smile, high five, chest bump, enjoy the process. That's one thing that I tell kids all the time is laugh at pain, smile at pain. You know, Gladiator, Russell Crowe, you know, death comes for us all. All we can do is smile back. Like, you know it's coming. So what's the alternative? Just smile and enjoy this 2-hour hard-ass workout. You know, that's what I got from LeBron and Ray Allen.
I think it's really, really interesting. There's two things, as I was listening to you there, there's two things I extracted from that are actually very relevant to my work as well. So from a practice and a preparation perspective, I was picturing a line, a continuum, a scale, if you like, from playful to serious. And it sounds to me like a Ray Allen, a LeBron James. You know, you used the word fun, and it's an interesting word to use. But I'm thinking about them, practicing up and down that scale of playful to serious, but always enjoying it, whether they're on the playful end, in the middle, or towards the serious end. You know, with that they're enjoying being serious about their sport, and they're enjoying being playful, and they're almost bringing the two together at times, being in the middle of that scale.
Yeah, correct. And as a coach, you have to teach young people how to do that, because the bottom line is you don't want to disrespect the game. You don't want to disrespect the coaches, right? Non-negotiables, which, the rules, their goals, however you want to spin it, right? The coach has boundaries, and you don't want to disrespect that. And then you don't want to disrespect your teammates. So if you can have fun through those three, then why not? And if you're a coach that doesn't allow that, then okay, you're a dictator. You're communistic. That's why it's so hard in China, right? They don't have fun. They don't show emotion. You watch them, all their athletes, right? And I'm not just being judgmental. This is fact, and this is something that they agree with, and they're trying to show more of in sport competition. But if you can, as a coach, if you can enhance that and encourage that, make that one of your non-negotiables. Hey, if you respect the game, you respect your teammates, and you respect our boundaries, we can have all the fun we want. Bring in music into practice. Like, that's what I do. That's fun. It brings energy and emotion. But I'm not bringing music into a practice where you're lazy, you're soft, you're silent, you're selfish. No, we're going to turn that music off. It's stuff like that. It's giving kids a reward for doing well, external reward. Hey, if we get 9 out of 10 shots here, I'll give everybody a pair of Jordans, or everybody a Sunday after the workout. I do external rewards to teach them how to be intrinsically motivated, but you got to do stuff like that. You got to play dribble tag and dodgeball, and play cancel practice today and go out and play softball, and team building activities doesn't always have to be on the court.
I love everything you've said there. I recognise a lot of that and think it's absolutely spot on. The other thing you said that I wanted to mention, I think is really, really interesting. It's a really interesting area, is the paradoxical side of performance, and by that I mean you talked about coaches who will say to players, "Come on, it's game day. You got to be serious. You got to be serious. You got to get your serious face on." And as you kind of alluded to, you kind of said, well, hang on a minute, not necessarily. No, it's game day can still be playful. Game day you still want players to have fun. You want them to express themselves. High fives, music, etc., etc. Because quite often for a lot of players, and this is some of the best in the world at their given sport, actually having fun, enjoying, being playful, being in the right that helps them be in the right mental state, and that gives them the best opportunity to perform. It doesn't have to be this serious game face. Not everybody is like that. Have you found that?
100%. And just looking at all the teams I played for, I played for 3 different college coaches because I transferred and a college coach ended up getting fired. One got promoted. So I had 3 different college coaches. I had 3 different college coaches I worked for when I was a college coach. Mm-hmm. And I had about 5 or 6, coaches, middle school and high school, AAU. A guy named Boo Williams, who's the most famous AAU coach in the United States. And I could see different philosophies. Some coaches were, strict, be serious. They made you fit into a box. And other coaches allowed you to be you. You just got to play good in the game. It's like that was one of the coaches that I had, Jerry Wainwright. I think he's at Tulsa now. He was like, hey, man, you can do that. Just play good in the games. And he was right. Like, as a coach, you got to be self-aware. Hopefully you have some assistants that are locked in. And you got to study. Like, that's one part of where something like with what you do is so important and significant, because that's hard. As coaches, we're teaching the mental, we're teaching the physical, so a lot of physical, right? We don't really are aware of our players' emotions. And so you have to study the trends of if this player does this and there's a trend of him playing bad, well, then study his behavior, his attitude before the game, right? He might have to dial up the seriousness. You got other players. I remember this guy named Matt McCool, right? Belmont Abbey, player for us. He was so serious that we made him not practice. We made him, watch a comedy or joke with them, or, kind of lighten the mood a little bit. Go over and just fart on him right before the game starts. I'm serious. I'm dead serious. Or say, hey, man, look at that girl up there in the stands, man. She is smoking. After the game, go get her number. Like, stuff like that, which, a joke, player that needs to dial up the seriousness, you wouldn't tell that to. You wouldn't use those strategies too. But for Matt, like, he was so wound up and so anxious, and his play, 4 or 5 games, it was a trend. So we knew we had to change his behavior. And so, it's different for different teams and players. You just have to see what works. And the bottom line is, you want your winning percentage up, and you want your kids, while they win, to have fun. And there's a whole nother problem of a lot of teams are winning, but, man, kids aren't having fun. So, that's even, you have to look into that. But bottom line is, teams are winning, then you make sure the kids have that trend and that those habits emotionally and mentally before the game in respect to seriousness.
Well, it's that participation piece, isn't it, Ganon? And it's, I think sometimes coaches can get wrapped up in that big W, especially at college level, because obviously that's where you're judged, and I get that. But I feel that you're saying is that you want lifelong participants, or you want people coming through the college level who are always going to be passionate and have a love for basketball and the other sports that they play. And when you get too wrapped up with performance and winning, that can be, and I say can be, not always, but can be to the detriment of that participation piece. I mean, a question for you, because you've been around these coaches for so many years, and you talked about some of your coaches and the different ways they went about it. You spoke about coaches who would try to put everybody into that single box. Do you think they're going to have? Do you think those kind of coaches are going to have much oxygen in the future? Do you think they're going to survive as coaches? Do you not think that the coach of the future, the 21st century coach, is the people coach, is the social coach, is the holistic coach, rather than the X's and O's coach, rather than the disciplinarian, essentially?
Well, that's a great question, and to answer your question, I firmly believe that most successful coaches are the ones that teach winning basketball and winners in life. Like, how do you go now be a living trophy, which means you take all the lessons you've learned from your sport, and now you go and win in life. You become a great pillar in society, so to speak. You become a great person, a husband, wife, a leader in your community. You're doing what you love. You have a calling. You're making a difference. You're adding value to life. But with all that, you have internal peace, you have internal joy, you have internal purpose, and you're able to fight anxiety and depression. And, I've lost 2 coaches of mine that work for me and I mentor in the last 3 years to depression. And I have multiple family members that are depressed. Well, one is severely depressed now, and the other tried to commit suicide, over a decade ago because of a family tragedy we had. So, like, depression and how you it show your like peace and joy and purpose, and that is where a lot of these coaches are losing their kids and themselves, and they get burned out, they get stressed out. Because, yes, you have to win to feed your family. You have to win to have value as a leader. As a leader, we have an ego. All of us have it, and we want to be good at our job. And so the world judges you on how many you win and then how much you win. And so I get that. But when it's all said and done, everybody that has done research on people that are dying, nobody says, I wish I was better at my job. They all of them, 100% say, man, I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish I gave back to the world more. I wish I spent more time in the things I really, truly love. Like they wanted more peace, more joy, more passion, more purpose. And so with coaches nowadays, they have to find a way to teach these kids the lessons from winning, and then to find some way to enjoy the process to get them to win, right? Without cracking the whip, without being too serious. It all comes down to any faith you believe in. You gotta have a balance. You gotta have a fine line between, winning and teaching them how to be a winner. Being passionate, but not being, too overprotective of your goals. So, interesting question, and that's why guys like you and me are on platforms to teach people, that it's the journey. Enjoy the process, enjoy the journey, and life is not all about, what we do. Life is about what we give and how we're building up others holistically, not just physically. Right? Not just physically. Great question.
And my final question for you, and actually relevant to that, is who would you say? I suppose slightly putting you on the spot because one can't make assumptions, but I know a lot of coaches in the industry, back to front and front to back. What NBA coaches or college coaches would you say epitomise what you've just spoken about there? Who other coaches can read up about and follow and learn from?
Well, that's a great question, and two coaches that come to mind right away. John Chaney, who I had a chance to play against when I was at Duquesne University. They're in the Atlantic 10, and John Chaney was the head coach at Temple. Playing against his teams, knowing him, talking to his players. Like from the outside, you would have thought he was a huge dictator and a slave driver, but he won a lot of games, but he also helped a lot of men find their calling and find purpose in their lives and go out and create wonderful families. Another one is Tony Bennett, the head coach at UVA. I mean, national champion. But if you study him, you do research on him, you talk to his players, he's the national champion mentor, national champion father figure, national champion role model. Obviously, Greg Popovich. I've had a chance to be around his assistant coaches. Phil Jackson. I've trained some players that have played for him, and they share with me how holistic and how Popovich, Doc Rivers for the Clippers, and Phil Jackson. Shuby Brown, right? So they coach the player. To be a better person instead of coaching the player to go out and win games. So they really, in turn, they look at the player as a person. Look, I'm going to build you up as a man, because the better man you are, the better decisions you're going to make on and off the court. Because in the NBA, a lot of, of a player's success is linked to his off-the-court behavior. You know what I mean? And again, that's why they brought in these sports psychologists to help the player's mind get right, so they make the right decisions off the court and on the court. So it was just Cheryl Reeves for the Minnesota Lynx. I was able to spend 3-4 months with that program. Best program I've ever been around in my life. Everything was about the person being aware. Everything from how you greet them in the morning to when they leave the gym, checking on them. Birthday parties. It was a family atmosphere. And I have a great acronym for family. It's forget about me, I love you. Forget about me, I love you. And I think there needs to be more coaches out there that do they have to do a better job of coaching love. Like, we don't know how to coach love. Sometimes maybe we didn't receive love, right? But we don't know how to coach love, right? We love the sport. We love you, but we don't know how to coach it or show it. And Cheryl Reeves was the best in the world at that with her players and the staff that I was able to work with.
Fantastic. Well, I'm definitely going to look up some of those coaches because they're names that I don't know necessarily. So I'm looking forward to reading up more about them. Now, Ganon, thank you so much, mate, for your time. I know you will have tapped the interest of the audience. So, how can everybody learn more about you? Do you have a website? Do you use social media? How can people get in contact if they want to?
Yeah, I appreciate it. I travel all over and do speaking engagements as well as train basketball players but I work with coaches on every sport. And if you're interested in have me or what I do, or if you just want to share some of your information with me, I'm always looking to learn. Love to read. I'm at Ganon Baker Basketball, GANONBAKER, all one word, basketball.com. If you Google my name, GANONBAKER, I'm easy to find. I'm on Facebook. I'm not on Snapchat, man. I'm trying to figure out these platforms.
Yeah.
TikTok is out there now, but I'm on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Ganon Baker Basketball. I'm easy to find, and it's been an honor, Dan. You asked some great questions. I see your passion is for helping people, so thank you for bringing me along.
Well, thank you so much, Ganon. I really, really appreciate your time, mate. Well, everyone, I really, really enjoyed that podcast, and I'd love to hear what you, the listener, thinks. So please do get in touch via Twitter or Facebook or through my website, danabrahams.com, to tell me what you think of the Sports Psych Show. And if you do have any suggestions, I'd be delighted to hear them. Well, I'm already looking forward to next week's episode. Bye for now.